The Deputy Minister for Energy's explanation follows a question posed to the ministry by the MP for Cape Coast South, George Kweko Hagan. Responding, he explained that Ghana's gold for oil contract agreement is between the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited (BOST) and suppliers of petroleum products.
Mr. Speaker, Ghana's gold for oil contract agreements are between the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited (BOST) and the suppliers of petroleum products, and are spot contracts, which involves the purchase or sale of the commodity for quick delivery at the current or prevailing market price, termed as the spot price.
Last year, the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, announced the new government policy dubbed Gold for Oil. The policy, as explained by the government, is to allow the government to pay for imported oil products with gold in a direct barter with gold purchased by central bank. The move, announced by the Vice President amid the depreciation of the cedi against the US dollar and the rising cost of fuel prices, was explained as an intervention to help stabilize prices of fuel products, as well as reduce pressure on Ghana's foreign exchange, as the direct gold barter would be the mode of paying for imported oil instead of depleting the foreign exchange reserve. The Gold for Oil program has since been implemented, with the first oil consignment arriving last month. According to government's 4GO program framework dated February 3, 2023, which explains the policy, payment for the oil supply is done to two channels: barter trade or via forex obtained from selling gold to a broker. Under the barter channel, suppliers willing to take gold in direct exchange for petroleum products will be provided with the equivalent volume of gold by the Bank of Ghana (BOG). In a follow-up question, the MP further sought to know the contract advantages to the country and the spot price used in the exchange.
Mr. Speaker, my question is, what is the advantage? If you are buying the oil at a market price, which is the spot price, what is the advantage in this whole agreement that we have done with some suppliers that nobody knows?
This was the response he gave.
The idea of this gold for oil was not necessarily to get cheap oil price, but the idea was to take pressure off the foreign exchange, where government needed to use our scarce foreign exchange to procure petroleum products. In this case, we're using gold. We're using cedis to buy gold and then use the gold to exchange for petroleum products. So it's not, the purpose was not originally to get necessarily cheap price. We buy it as and when, spot.
Also, former Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu additionally sought to know if it was an economic transaction on behalf of the state, taking into recognition that what the Constitution says about such transactions.
The Minister in his answer states that Ghana's gold for oil contract agreements are between the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited (BOST). For my purposes, I will extend it as a state-owned enterprise and suppliers of petroleum products and our spot contracts. Mr. Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister whether he construes, as I do, this to be an economic transaction on behalf of the state within the meaning of Article 1815 of the 1992 Constitution. I want to find out whether this transaction falls within the contemplation of Article 1815 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, it states, this article shall, with the necessary modification by Parliament, apply to an international business or economic transaction using our gold is to which the government is a party as it applies to a loan. The government of Ghana is a party because BOST is a state-owned enterprise. You swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. May you respond why we shouldn't treat this as an economic interest?
However, He was rebated by the Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Fenyomakin, who had debated that an interpretation has already been given by the Supreme Court.
Judicial interpretation. BOST is an entity owned by government, but it is an independent corporate entity. Yes, and in the Mark Esebe Yabua case, maybe for the avoidance of doubt, I may remind you, in the Mark Esebe Yabua case, the Supreme Court interpreted this matter you brought, and it said that to the extent that ECG has its own board, irrespective of it giving a residual guarantee to support the car power transaction, it did not amount to a transaction under Article 1815. So there's an interpretation on this matter. So don't attempt to lead him into a certain tangent. There's already an interpretation to this matter by the Supreme Court in Makesebe Yabua. So he settles it. He doesn't need to express an opinion on this matter because the Supreme Court has already settled the matter. That is what the Supreme Court has said, and it's happening under your government. Mr. Speaker, 2015, when you did the car power transaction. Mr. Speaker, I need to remind you.
That's notwithstanding, the Tamale South legislator called that the needful be done.
I appreciate when you yourself drew his attention to what the requirement of Article 1815 is. But I'm particularly happy that the Honorable Minister of Finance is sitting right behind you and that of the Minister for Energy. And the obligations and encumbrance you are creating at BOST tomorrow, don't let him come and tell this nation and country that it must be absorbed as a public sector debt, when it's a debt which being precipitated by the actions of BOST. So when we say respect the Constitution, we mean it, Mr. Speaker, because under your IMF agreement, didn't you absorb all the SOEs debt as government debt? So BOST currently, whose gold? Whose gold are you selling? Whose gold? On behalf of the government of Ghana, to who? And we are saying that Parliament should stop sleeping, and you must lead the process that we stop sleeping.